Welcome back to Coast Files, your podcast for ocean mysteries and true crime. I'm Chantel.
I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Megan.
Hello, everyone. Oh, I just turned my
Hello.
headphones back onto Aware so I could hear my surroundings so I'm not yelling into the microphone. And that just made everything sound really weird all of a sudden.
I prefer the yelling
Oh.
if it's all the same, but
Okay. I don't and I'm sure Lindsay doesn't when we're editing and suddenly one of us is super loud in our headphones.
well,
Right.
okay, so
I mean,
that makes sense actually.
and
Sorry.
it's never you. It's never me who's super loud. But to be honest, I have the opposite problem. I'm like, what did I say? And you guys are like responding to me, and I'm like, I don't know what I said, so I better up the volume. So I'm sorry,
Yeah.
people, if you can't hear me, but then
Yeah.
one of these other ladies breaks your headphones. with
Okay,
their
listen.
booming.
I try to turn it down when I need to. Sometimes I see our laughs or when Megan and I get really excited and the spikes are so high. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh God, that's
Megan, you
not a
are
good
the
one.
most even keel.
Oh, thank
Chantal
God.
and I are the
I need to be praised.
yes.
Just constantly.
And I
in
do
life,
have
just in
voice
general.
modulation. I have trouble controlling the volume of my voice.
I just come from a loud family.
Guys, oh my
so-
God, that is a Will
Yeah.
Ferrell SNL skit from like 25 years ago. How did you not get that reference?
Okay, I was
I'm
not as
sorry.
big on SNL as you were.
Yeah.
I was way
so-
too young to be watching TV. Totally off topic. What is tomorrow and why is it better than the day that comes after tomorrow?
It's Galentine's tomorrow.
Hell yeah.
Where we
One of the-
celebrate all the lovely ladies in our lives.
Exactly.
Leslie
Very
Knope
important
style.
day. Yeah.
Mhm,
Do you
it
recall,
is.
Lindsay, I always forget exactly in my life when you moved to Chicago because it was so heartbreaking. I kind of like blocked it out. But
Right, it was
I
hard.
had a Galentine's Day party at my old apartment. And I know that Chantel was there and Sasheen was there.
We definitely did Galentine's at your apartment. I have photos of us in like bed the next day, like hanging
Then
out.
that could have been the same time. I remember that we all were painting. We're painting and drinking, having fun. And Chantel painted this like, I don't even know how.
Oh, my
It was
demon?
horrifying. It was the scariest
Oh,
picture that I've
yeah.
ever seen.
I think I had someone come over to our apartment once and was like, "You should get rid of that." I'm like, "What's wrong?"
I'm
They're like,
sensing
"I
like
think I'm
sadness
sensing
and
bad
despair from
energies."
this. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like
I
a-
was just
my
getting some
energy
shit
reader
out.
friend. She was like, I felt like I was in a horror movie for a second. I'm like,
That is how
Like
you
Chantel.
create haunted relics by putting all that
Yeah.
emotion into a piece of art. So
yeah.
anyway,
If anybody wants one, let us know. You can get a coffee donation and I'll send you my artwork.
I mean,
Yes,
you know
you
what?
could do a dark painting
I-
for people.
I can make a whole new
There we
tier
go.
just for that. If you want some haunted art that Chantel makes,
Mhm.
let us know and we'll make it happen.
I love that
Yeah,
idea, actually.
I love it. I'll make people little
are
like
you guys-
crochet things that from my crochet habit that I'm starting to pick up again.
Oh,
So.
yes. There we go.
It has to be.
Sama still has her toy.
It has to be a
Yeah.
lobster holding a knife, right? Is that
That's
the
I'm gonna make
plan?
lobsters. I bought red yarn, so all cute lobsters,
Well,
dark
cute but
painting from Chantal.
murderous.
Murderous,
Mhm.
cute. Yeah, maybe you can help me make the knives, Megan.
I've learned how to crochet.
Well, I mean, we could.
Well, maybe
doesn't
you can
have to
just
be a
buy some
crochet
plastic
knife. It could be
knives.
like a
You
little,
know what?
yeah, a little
I-
plastic knife.
I did make a 1990s cordless phone out of cardboard.
That,
for my
I
Halloween
was
costume.
That was
referencing
good.
your excellent crafting skills. So yes.
Okay, so I'll
Mhm.
figure it
We'll
out.
talk. We'll talk.
Listeners,
Yeah.
don't worry. I can tell everyone's super stressed. We're going to get
There
this
will
done.
be a new tier coming
Don't worry.
soon.
Okay, so
for now, thanks to all of our regular donators.
big fans of you. You make us feel
Mhm.
warm and gooey on the inside.
Appreciate
and special,
it. I know.
which is nice.
Yeah.
And what else is happening right now? TikTok isn't banned. We're clearly behind.
hey,
We don't
once
even
this is
know.
coming out.
This is
Yeah,
it was
this
for
is-
like 4
so-
hours.
It was for 4 hours. Yeah, that's
Not for us
where we're at
Canadians.
in this time in history. We're actually. Oh, and last time we forgot to mention National Missing Persons Day, but I know Megan's gonna be doing a post, so it's all good.
Yes.
It's all
So
good. We're
ironically
getting back
enough,
to it.
the episode from last week, the whole point was that this person is missing, Rebecca Corium. So that was the whole.
Presumed dead, but missing. Yeah.
Oh, geez Louise. Well, listen, and you let us know what you think. I'm of the assumption that she's no longer on this earthly plane.
Yeah.
But the whole idea was to highlight her story because she's in fact still missing. And so, yeah, I mean, what do you say? Happy National Missing Persons Day? I don't think so. But that's
No.
It's just a recognition.
Yes, mark
day.
the
It's not a
calendar.
happy day.
Oh, hell no, it's
Yeah.
not a happy day.
Yeah.
On to
But
better things. What are we talking about today? I'm excited.
Not so much better.
Perfect.
We're going to continue on with our creepy lake series, and this isn't so much of a creepy lake as it is a deadly lake. In fact, was once the world's deadliest lake and part of the third most deadly radioactive disasters in human history.
Oh, so it's gonna take
So
the cake from Lake Superior.
Yeah, it is. So this is
wow.
Lake Karachay, and it's found in
Russia.
Can you
Russia.
guess? Yes,
Yeah.
Russia.
The land of
It's
your
Russia.
lover.
We're back in Russia. Actually, he knew nothing about this. I was telling him all about it
Wow.
last
So
night.
you're
He was
teaching him
highly
about
disturbed.
his own
His
country.
own heritage. I
Yeah.
know. No.
Is the murderous lake part of his heritage? Like, is that what you want for yourself
Obviously.
and for him?
Listen, you got to make a mark on the world, right? So
Also,
Exactly.
not the same, but similar. I've always wanted to go see Pirapet, Chernobyl.
Oh, I
Like,
do not want to
that'll
see
get
that in
discussed in
person.
here too.
I kind of do want to see it in person, but then I know that
just
when,
like,
okay, well, here's like the
I don't know. I
radiation
would be
suits.
so
I'll be out.
worried about just
Yeah,
any sort
it's
of exposure.
I know. I
Yeah,
guess
so
that's
I was
true.
actually watching a video on that about people because they do tours in those areas and they
Mhm.
take you to the places that supposedly aren't as radioactive. So, I don't get into this in this, but I did discover at one point. So, radioactive is measured in two ways. It's rotins and sieviettes, SIEVTS.
Yep, exactly.
One is
Of
like
course.
the damage it does to the body, and one is like damage over time and to areas. And so, what is it? 1 to 3 is like a low radiation, and like 3 to 5 is like can be deadly, but can also just cause acute radiation syndrome. Anyways, when you're going to these places, they'll take you to places that are only low that aren't supposed to do anything really bad to you. But I was watching this one and this guy was like, yeah, their readers are saying this, but my reader is saying much higher. Like, I don't know if we should be here. Like, how accurate are those
I
readers?
think I
Should
might
they
have
be
watched
taking
the
us to these
same
places?
thing.
I wouldn't be
It
surprised if we
seems
watched it
familiar.
I think I
together.
saw a movie.
That is
about
very
this.
possible.
It's so well, it was like a real thing. It was a documentary of a guy going there. But yeah, it was I remember in that moment I was like, yeah, it'd be really cool to see this, but like not yet.
Better not.
Maybe not.
Give it a couple
let's
more
play it safe.
decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is similar.
So this is Lake Karachay in
Cool.
Russia. So it has more to do. This whole thing has more to do with the radioactive disasters than the lake itself.
Wonder one,
But
alright.
Okay.
this is definitely water adjacent still. So how do we get here? How do we get to have the most deadly lake in the world? Well, we have to go back to 1945, Hiroshima, Japan.
Good
And
times.
on August 6th, the Americans dropped the atomic bomb, aka Little Boy, that we have referenced before, which killed over 2/3 of the population of Hiroshima at the time.
Jesus Christ, man.
Now, Russia at this time had already been involved in nuclear research since the 1930s, but it was more so scientific than military during this period. So after the bomb dropped, Stalin was like, we need to build a factory, and we need to build a factory now. So there was already espionage occurring during the Manhattan Project before this. There was, some Russians infiltrated it and secrets were being put out. But the urgency became more apparent when the bomb was actually used and the full power was really seen. So that
he didn't know
began
that
the
they
arms
had
race.
it. Like he wasn't.
No, they
aware.
knew because there
Okay.
was some espionage happening. But once the bomb was actually so the first one, the tester was kind of like, let's do this. And then
Yeah.
Hiroshima happened and they were like, no, like fucking do this like now.
Yeah.
So so you can go to my first photo there for everybody listening. It's just going to show kind of the area that this is taking place. So when you actually look up Lake Karachay, a lot of fake stuff comes up. You'll see like these red lakes that are supposed to be like the most toxic, but that's not what the lake looks like now unless they were older photos, but it really doesn't even make sense when you try to source them back. You can't really find the source. Nothing actually says that it's Lake Karachay, so there's a
Okay.
lot of fake photos
Okay.
up that come up when you search Lake Karachay.
Photoshop, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Most
or just
likely.
like other lakes that, a lot of them show it to be like red, which can be from toxins, but can also be from certain forms of
Algae?
algae as well. So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily that that's what it is. So anyways, this is off of Wikipedia. It actually shows the site where all of this stuff kind of went down. So In 1945, the super top secret "Don't tell anyone or your body will go missing in the woods" construction of the Mayak facility started, and which, by the way, was built by Gulag prisoners who were working in really tough conditions with barely any shelter, food, or protective gear, even when working with nuclear materials. So off to a real
It's almost like
great
they didn't care
start.
about them.
Almost. Yeah.
Hmm.
It was built in a very remote area. So that area where the Mayak site is in the Ural Mountains near a region, the Chelyabinsk region.
Nailed it.
Thank you. And while building this whole facility, they realized that they were going to need an area to house the people that were going to be working there because this is super secret. And you obviously don't want them going back to main towns where things might get spilled. You know, they're having a beer with somebody and they're accidentally
Probably
like, oh,
a
yeah, we're getting
vodka.
super top secret.
Yeah.
Or a white
Like, yeah.
Russian.
They like their beers, though, too.
They
And
don't discriminate.
so
Do Russians actually
Yeah.
drink white Russians? I feel like that would be not cool to do.
that's a good question. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, it is
I'll,
vodka,
I'll
right?
ask Vadim. He
Or
knows
is it-
all.
It's vodka, right?
It's vodka, yeah.
So
Vodka and milk.
Which is like, who the fuck thought that was going to be
And then
good?
a black Russian is vodka and Kahlua and milk.
yeah,
That at least
no
sounds
milk,
better.
right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
No,
Isn't
no,
the
Oh,
vodka-
yeah. No, it's no
There's
milk.
all-
Yeah, it's just vodka and Kahlua. Yeah.
Oh,
Or maybe there was a
there's,
little bit of
no,
milk
there's
in
no
it.
way it's a
No, there-
couple of Kahlua, you guys.
No, and
No.
vodka.
Yeah, but it's not just.
Yeah.
No, there would be milk. Otherwise, that's a shot.
No, it's
Not having-
that's a white Russian.
What?
Yeah, but you're not having a whole glass full of just Kahlua and
A
vodka.
black Russian is kind of
Two
like-
ingredients cocktail that consists of vodka and coffee liqueur. There we go. It
Yeah, don't
does
even
not
argue with
contain
Chantel
any
about
milk.
vodka
Who hurt
things
you?
anymore.
Who is drinking that? Oh my god!
Well, I mean, it's the same thing as like a Manhattan. Yes, you could
Yeah.
say that's also
But
a
it's
shot
not
because
like a
it's three
cup.
different type of
It's like a
liquors.
little glass. And
Yeah, but if
I
you're
mean,
making a
Kahlua
Black Russian, it can be a shot and a shot.
is
Yeah, I
good on
guess,
its
and one
own.
and one.
And
so-
in my head, I'm thinking
Yeah, it
like
is.
it's like a highball, and so it's like just filled to the brim with just liquor.
Kahlua, though,
Like,
is good on ice cream, and that's really
Yeah.
the way that it should be.
on ice
and
too.
that's
I would
what
drink
we're
it.
talking about today is all the ways to use Kahlua. And I think on ice cream, it's a good idea.
Okay, so anyways, while they're building this, they're like, we need a place to house all these people so that our super secrets don't get out. And so they start to build in the near the area of Chelyabinsk 40 is what they called this area. And then actually it got renamed City 40,
Okay,
which, can you see it on that map?
I'm looking. What's it? The
It's,
Mayak
oh, no, it's a little bit
sites?
further
Is that-
north.
Oh, okay.
It's a little bit further. See where the part where it says Ozyork?
Yes, that's where I was
Mhm.
looking.
That is where the city
I was thinking the Ozarks, but it's probably
was.
not that.
I know.
God,
that's
that
what it
show was
kinda
so
looks
good.
right? So that's where the city is / was. It's now called something else.
Okay.
So I'm going to call it City 40, though, from here on out, because
Okay.
that's the nickname that they have it. And it's way easier than me trying to pronounce that word over and over again.
I think
So
everyone
in
appreciates that.
1947,
Right,
they,
so thank
they
you.
built this town. The construction was completed by 1948, and this became Russia's first nuclear weapons facility. And its main goal was to produce plutonium for the first Soviet atomic bomb. Most of the people that were working in this area were not civilians. They were military personnel and gulag prisoners, like we said before, for the grunt work. And they were mainly living in these poorly maintained apartments, barrack-style housing. They had very few amenities and had to share these spaces with other workers, which apparently wasn't that
And who
odd
are the
for the
Gulag
time.
people? Do you know?
The gulag prisoners are kind of like the worst of the worst,
Okay.
from what I remember.
it's just
And
imagine
they're not like
It's like Mickey
treated
Rourke's
very well.
character from
It's
Iron
not like
Man
a-
3.
Group of people. It's just like the nickname for the prisoners.
to the type of prison that they were in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never heard of the
If I'm-
gulags?
I've
Yeah.
heard of it, but I don't know anything about
Just
it. so
extremely rough prisons where it's like, hey, here's a pickaxe, break rocks forever until you die.
So if you
Okay,
look
yeah.
up the meaning quickly, it says a system of labor camps maintained in the Soviet Union from 1930 to 1955 in which many people died. So great. It's great. Anyways, so they had these places. But from things that like Vadim has told me in the past, it wasn't very uncommon for people in the USSR to be living in kind of these group places. Obviously, this one was way worse because they literally did not give a shit about these people.
Mhm.
So that like it wasn't kept up at all. The places were kind of dirty and all that, but it wasn't very uncommon for people to be living in housing areas where it's like you have your house, but like you share a kitchen. Like you have your own apartment, but you
Okay.
share a kitchen. You share certain common areas and stuff like that.
Nope.
So,
It's a little,
Can't do it.
a lot of shared
grown
housing.
I'm a grown woman
well,
in my kitchen. I have a way and I have a system, and you just need to not go in my kitchen.
Sounds like
listen,
that was
at
a
that time, I
luxury at
think,
this place and time.
yeah, I think that at the time you were just grateful to have a roof.
Shelter. Yeah.
So, yeah. But the higher ups, like the scientists, engineers, and technical staff that lived here, they typically lived pretty large. They had beautiful homes built for them. They were given more food rations than even most in the USSR were getting at all. They were in a safer, less contaminated areas of town, and they had access to medical care. So they were basically given things that were beyond the wildest dreams of people that were living in the USSR at this time. And they mostly went there willingly. They were not voluntold like the other people that were working there.
I thought they were all about
And
like socialism. This doesn't sound very
Yeah.
spread
it's
amongst the
kind of
many.
opposite.
Yeah, it's very American, honestly.
Yeah, do you not remember how like corrupt everything was?
That was a sarcasm.
Yeah.
So yes,
A lot of these scientists actually were eager to work there because they called themselves the nuclear shield and saviors of humanity because they thought that they were doing something really good. They were like, okay, well, the USA has these bombs. They're going to be able to take over the world. We need to make sure that we're doing this so that we can save Russia, so that we can make sure that this doesn't happen here, that nobody can take us over. So they saw themselves as the saviors, but they didn't actually understand at the time the disasters that they were already causing.
but also you can't call yourself a hero. That's so not cool.
Yeah,
but,
you have to let someone else call you that.
Someone else can call you the savior of humanity and the nuclear shield. You can't call yourself that. That's like super cringe.
Yeah, it's like making your
Oh.
own nickname. Come on.
Well, not to mention,
Ooh.
it's just like that's just tempting fate, right? Like,
Again.
you don't
Titanic will never
Yeah,
sink
yeah,
ever.
this is the most unsinkable ship ever built.
Just try to
just
blow this
don't-
up.
just
I bet you
don't do
can't.
it. Yeah, exactly. But like I can kind of see that like you're a scientist, you've been working on this stuff since the 1930s.
Yeah,
Like
probably
you're
think-
like, yeah, this is
Well, it is
like this is just the next step.
Even though
This
most
is what
times
we're
it
supposed to be
ends in a
doing.
very bad place, it's always like very excited. Like you're on the cutting edge of this technology.
Well, yeah, even like
Mhm.
nuclear power, right? Nuclear
It's a
power
big deal.
was starting to be used at this time, or not used, but like
Well,
discovered.
yeah,
and
or
that kind of stuff. So
they had it and they were trying to develop it. Because whenever I think about the 1950s, like the nuclear family, ironic change of words, but
Mhm.
you know, I always think like there's a nuclear power plant in the background. That's a part of the
Mhm.
whole
Oh,
like
yeah.
fallout
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just
And
surprised
also
that
this,
that you said this was when they started working on their own nuclear.
Mm,
I think they put it to hyperdrive at this point.
Okay.
yeah,
'Cause I'm
1930
like, you're already
they've been
behind the
discovering.
game. Then
Yeah, well, I
if-
mean, they knew that like Russia was doing some stuff. This is why Manhattan Project started, right? Because they were worried that the Soviets were going to be making these bombs, and like Russia was, or the
Right.
USSR at the time was looking into things, but like I said, not really for munitions. They were doing it for exploratory reasons. But like they knew that they had it. They knew they had all these scientists behind it, big name scientists too, very well known scientists were working on
That
this
I'm sure
stuff.
we could all name, but we're running short on time, so we're
Yeah.
not going to
Yeah.
name them all.
Yeah, that's I gotta get through this. So this also would have been very scary for their families, as most of these people were presumed dead. Since this place was so secretive, they could not contact their close
the
families
hell?
for 8 years. They went
so
8
their
years of
families
radio silence.
did not come with them in any capacity.
I think that some of their immediate families came with them, but mostly, like, let's say your cousins or like,
Yeah.
that type of family. It's like
I
they
don't
had
even talk
no
to my
idea where you
cousins,
were.
so-
It just went like radio silence. You had friends who never heard from you again or didn't hear
okay.
from you from this
so
like,
much
long
different
period of
than
time.
like from the Manhattan Project, because it looked like like Oppenheimer could bring his family to
Yeah.
what's
So
the
I
area
think that
called?
they
I
could
forget
still
the
have,
name.
I think the higher ups could bring their family, but the
Okay.
lower tier people were just like voluntold there
I always love that word, voluntold.
and like never heard of again.
What's the big
You know,
deal?
some of these people probably did actually die there. Actually, not some. Not yeah, they did. Some of these
Los
people died
Alamos.
there.
That's
Like,
the place. I couldn't remember the name.
oh
of it.
yes, Los
I
Alamos.
still need
That's
to
it.
watch that movie. Please don't kill me.
It was
Oh my
really
God, it's
good.
so good.
I know. I will.
I liked it. Vadim didn't like the ending. to be honest. Oh, well, he doesn't like Christopher Nolan. So he was kind of like, he's like, he does it. He went overboard with it is what he felt. Anyways, hot take. You guys can yell at him in the comments. So, everything's built.
Okay.
1949 to 1956, the Mayak facility was dumping nuclear waste into the nearby Teka River. This river was a 243 kilometer, so 151 mile long, and covered 7,600 kilometers squared, so 2,900 miles squared. This was a major source of drinking water for 24 of the 40 villages in the area that it ran through, including the Mayak area itself.
You idiots. You're poisoning your own well? What the hell?
The people living
This is
along
gonna
the
end
Teka
well.
River, many of whom were unaware of the radiation risk, continued to use the water for drinking, bathing, and fishing. And over time, the river became a toxic reservoir, leading to severe health problems in the local population. Radiation-related cancers, birth defects, other serious health conditions became widespread, and the contamination of the river contributed to the massive public health crisis that affected the region.
So we got to call Aaron Brockovich right now.
Right now.
Stat.
But like
Yeah, she's
then.
going to give them all the glass of the water and say, you drink it. No one's going to drink it. Approximately 28 Olympic pools worth of material was being dumped per day
What the?
into the river.
That's a lot of work.
Oh my God.
To be
Damn.
fair, that is a mix of radioactive waste and a diluent of sorts.
Oh,
Typically was
well, as
water,
long
but
as
it
it was
doesn't
diluted.
matter.
Oh, yeah. That's totally
That's
safe.
fine. Why are we even talking about this?
I know, it's like nothing. It's nothing. So it's still a fuck ton. And for reference, an Olympic pool holds 2.5 million liters, or for our American friends, 660,430 gallons of water. That is how much 28 of those is being done.
I can't even really fathom. Like, you like to use a pool, like, oh, I can, I can visualize, but it's just so much. I just can't. A lot.
Yeah.
A small ocean.
That was the closest that I could get. I'm like putting it. I'm like, what can I
I
compare
know.
this
No,
to?
you did
This
you
is
did the right
best
thing.
Yeah.
It's
So,
overwhelming.
but no, same thing. It's like, okay, yeah, like I can. That's big.
Yeah, it's a
It's
lot.
big, basically. So over this period, so from 1949 to 1956, a total of 76 million cubic meters of waste was dumped into just this river. So that's 29,200 Olympic pools. 23 of the villages that this went through eventually were evacuated over time. And over a 45-year span, approximately 500,000 people were exposed to as much as 20 times the radiation suffered by the Chernobyl disaster victims.
Oh,
Well, holy
During
shit.
this time,
Take a step back,
on
Chernobyl.
August 20, right? I know. What are you even thinking? But during this time, on August 29th, 1949, the Mayak facility helped create what was called First Lightning, which was the first successful Russian atomic bomb that was as strong and destructive as Little Boy. So they
Cool.
did what they set out to do.
Congrats.
Yeah, the war's
Yes.
over, but cool.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
I guess. 1951 comes along and they decided to change and test different dumping grounds for the nuclear waste, and this was because they were starting to see the fallout of the pollution that they had from dumping into the Teka River. This is how Lake Karachay became the next victim. So they were lightly dumping into the river and like highly dumping into the lake during this time until 1956. They were using Lake Karachay because it was a secluded area and very shallow, and this is how it became one of the most radioactive places on Earth. By the early 1960s, just a few minutes at the lake could be enough to make a person bleed from their eyeballs.
At the
Oh my
lake.
God.
Not just in the
being
lake.
just being at the
Just at,
site
on the shore, just
Oh my
near
God.
it, near its
so you
presence.
can't even go near it without protective gear.
Don't have a picnic.
I was just going to say, is there not like a
It's-
nice public park you want to dump this stuff on instead?
Yeah.
Maybe like an orphanage?
How about just right on an orphanage or a dog shelter?
a
just
primary
right
school?
there. Yeah.
A nunnery?
Why not?
Sorry.
So this became the symbol of the USSR's disregard for environmental and public safety. And quickly, I'm just going to tell you a bit of the science behind radiation, because
Oh,
I know
God.
that we all know that radiation is not good in a lot of cases, but
Sometimes it's
this
good.
information, I don't know, it was just questions that I had because I really wanted to understand how it works. And I think it's just going to help us to really understand the gravity of what was happening.
Mhm.
So Radiation is used daily. It's in X-ray machines, it's in our phones, it's in our microwaves, it's literally all around us right now. But there are many different types of radiation, and the effects on the body are very different.
Mhm.
So the reason why nuclear waste from plants like these are so toxic is because of the plutonium, obviously, and the isotopes that are used, and they create gamma, beta, and alpha rays. These are some of the most
I've
dangerous.
heard of this from the Hulk.
Yes.
Yes.
But you don't
can.
turn into the Hulk, you just die here.
Oh.
So when
Oh.
no. Oh. I really wanted to go swimming there. So when the radioactive isotope called strontium-90 decays, it emits beta radiation, and beta rays can penetrate the skin a few millimeters and can be stopped by plastics or aluminum, but contact with beta rays causes what you call a radiation burn. So
Heard
it
of
looks
that.
just like a burn on your skin.
Okay.
Yeah. However, if strontium-90 is inhaled or ingested, it is easily absorbed by our bones due to its similarity to calcium.
shit.
Oh,
And it will
okay.
actually start to replace the calcium in our bone tissue,
That ain't
which
good.
leads to
No.
increased risk of bone cancer and leukemia. When the
Okay.
radioactive isotope cesium-137 decays, it emits beta radiation and decays into barium-137, which emits gamma radiation. And gamma rays can actually penetrate living tissue and cause changes in your DNA.
So
And
the Hulk is
cesium-
correct.
Yeah.
Hulkish. Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
So cesium is similar to potassium, meaning it can distribute through the body easily and accumulate in tissues like our muscles, because our muscles use potassium as energy. And don't forget that your heart is a muscle.
So Hulk. So the math is mathing. I'm not sure why
Yeah,
we're so
it's all
upset.
mathing. It's just, I mean, they must have had a much better way of giving it to people.
Okay.
So it can also be taken up because of, many things use potassium. It can be taken up by animals, plants, water sources, contaminating entire ecosystems. These, unfortunately, are also have a very long half-life. S90 is 28.8 years, and C137 is 30.17 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So not great. Takes you, and
That's a fucking long
remember
time.
from chemistry
Yeah, it's
with
like-
half-lives, like you never become zero. There is never such thing as not having radiation in you anymore, because it's just continually halving forever. There's just always radiation.
Mon head
So.
hurts.
Yeah.
I don't.
That's a lot of information.
Anyways,
I barely
drinking
got through
water
high school
today.
chemistry.
Okay.
Barely. Okay.
I loved it. But
I
as I was
know.
like writing this, I was like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I loved chemistry so much. I remember this
I love-
chemical
yeah.
reaction, and this reduces this, and
I'm
this
just like
releases
covalent
this. and-
bonds. I don't know.
Anyways, so basically, long story short, S90, C137 both emit gamma, beta, and alpha rays. Alphas, not so much. They're not as bad, but they are still bad. They're like the lesser of the three evils, basically, because they're commonly spread throughout nuclear disasters. They're still very harmful if they're ingested, but they can't penetrate the skin. In fact, they can't even penetrate paper.
Loser.
So it's not like
Yeah.
the worst of the
Weak.
worst, but it's still bad, like if you ingest it.
I thought you
right?
were
So-
alpha, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, you thought you were so cool.
So you're only going to affect me
The
if
beta.
I actively put you in my body.
Yes, which
Okay.
you'll see why this can happen very easily without you even knowing it. So, high doses of radiation over a short period of time can cause central nervous system damage, organ failure, and even death shortly after exposure. A lethal dose of radiation will cause 50% of people exposed to die within 30 days.
Shit.
It's literally called LD50. It can cause total organ failure in just a few days.
Oh.
Long-term exposure to radiation, even in low doses, can cause increased risk of cancers, gene mutations, and
And
chronic
there's
illnesses.
probably no cure if you have the overdose.
You have to get, so you can be, how quickly you get treatment determines basically how quickly you will die. It's not like
Oh.
you won't die.
So you're going
but
to
like,
die
it's
from
like
it.
You're, yes, from high doses of this, you will
Okay.
eventually. It will cause problems down the road, but there are interventions that they can take with radiation poisoning. But like, depending on how high it is, are we talking like 1 to 3 svets? Are we talking the 3 to 7 svets? Are we talking 10 svets? 10 svets, like no way. 3 to 7, maybe we can come back for a little while, but you're probably going to have a cancer later on in life. Like, it's all of these things where it's like, depends how long, what it was, how bad, how
Mhm.
soon did you seek medical intervention. And if you remember what I just said, most of these people there didn't even have access.
Well, they didn't even know.
Right.
medical
And they didn't even know. Oh,
intervention.
exactly. Yeah.
But they also didn't, didn't even know. So 1953, the first hydrogen bomb was created out of Mayak. Yay! 1957. The waste during this time was not just dumped into lakes and rivers, but it was also kept in underground tanks with cooling systems. Which I know seems weird, but that is actually the proper way of disposing of nuclear waste. My brother knows a lot about like nuclear power and what they're doing, and I remember him saying something about digging it. I don't really understand how. Obviously, it has to be in proper containers,
And then it just stays there until the
it
end of
has to
time.
be
but,
monitored.
like,
It also has to be monitored. But yeah, it just stays there
forever.
like forever.
I don't know if I trust that.
But in these containers that are like made to contain it. So anyways, they're doing this, but they aren't exactly maintaining it because like we're in Soviet Russia. So when radioactive decay occurs, it releases heat. And this is why cooling systems are needed. But
Okay.
their cooling systems weren't exactly the best. So on September 29th of 1957, an explosion with the same magnitude as 70 tons of TNT occurs.
At the site?
And this becomes, at the Kaistum disaster. So if you look on the map there, where is it?
I see the lake.
I think it was up more north is where it was. On there, let me see. There was another one.
Oh, I see it on the second
It was kind
map.
of more north.
Oh, sorry, second
Yeah.
map?
Yeah, we're gonna get to that one in a second.
Okay.
But you can see it there on that map as well. So it wasn't great. A cloud of radioactive fallout, which included the S-90 and the C-137 that I talked about before, the size of Vermont, covered Mayak and surrounding villages. It affected the lives of 250,000 people.
Whoa.
Soviet
Crazy.
authorities were alerted, but there was no immediate response or evacuation. Surprise, surprise. They kind of just told their people to like clean it up and continue on with their lives. No special gear was given, nothing. Just grab your mop, I guess, and go out and like
If
clean your
you
place.
have a life anymore.
Yes, if you weren't within like the immediate region of it.
So what does this look like? Just like ash, dust?
Yeah, like just dust, like just a big explosion.
And they're like,
of-
hey,
of
like,
everything.
don't worry. I know that's coated your entire village, but it's
yeah,
fine.
like, you
Yeah,
know,
like
it's fine.
most of the
It's
people
fine.
you know are gone, but hey,
Well,
it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know that. You're assuming that everyone's fine. So just sweep it all up, and your neighbors in the next town are fine, probably. They're not. They're
Yeah,
good.
like if you find a finger, just put it in the trash. It's fine.
Yeah,
Who knows where it was?
compost.
Yeah. 10,000 people were later evacuated from the areas, but and these were the areas that were most affected. Only Russians, no foreigners, and mainly the higher ups. So they didn't really like help most of the people
Well,
that
the-
were
the-
there.
the
They kind of
higher
like
ups part,
chose their
that makes
favorites, I
sense.
guess.
Yeah.
But by this point, lethal levels of radioactive poisoning would have already occurred, and hospitals were overflowing within a few weeks from those suffering from radiation poisoning. This whole
Wouldn't it be
disaster was
dangerous just for like you and the hospital staff to be around these people because then they're exposed?
Because they are radioactive. You're right.
Wouldn't it?
Depending on what they're bringing in with them, I don't know. I mean, listen, when you when you have radiation for cancer, yes, you can't use the same toilet as other people. You're supposed to keep certain areas very clean, but they're not like emitting radioactive.
Okay.
Right? It would like that's why you get it from the dust. You get it from. I'm gonna go into it how you get different ways of it, but it's not like you're not gonna get it from like touching them. I'm sure
Yeah.
they weren't safe in those hospitals though either because they're probably still within some of these zones. People are probably bringing in dust on their shoes and all of this kind of stuff. Like the
Right.
spread for this contamination would have been insane. So this whole disaster was kept very hush hush. So the actual numbers of people that died from this is still unknown. They do know that 24,000 kilometers squared of land was contaminated. though.
Holy shit, man.
This disaster was considered a level 6 nuclear event, and the only ones higher were Fukushima and Chernobyl, which were a level 7, which is the highest you can go.
So this is, but I mean,
Wow.
level 7 versus level 6, like it's right
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
At this point, the authorities really started to think that they shouldn't be dumping materials into the lakes or water anymore and stated that they were going to figure this out. But they didn't actually do this, and surprise, surprise, they continued to dump it to
But
the
they
lake.
just thought about it, and that counts for
They
a
thought-
lot.
They thought really hard about it.
So that actually reminds
and
me
then decided not to.
of that
brought it under consideration.
Louis C.K. skit where he's on the airplane and he sees someone from the army like going to war, like on a commercial flight, and he's like, "And I thought I should give him my like first class ticket, and I didn't. But the fact that I thought about doing
Thought
that
about
made
it, yeah,
me feel
I remember
so
that
good
one.
about myself.
Yeah.
I can
Sometimes
go
that's
to
half of
bed
it. Just
happy
think about
tonight.
it. Like, wow,
Yeah.
imagine if I did that.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
anyway, champagne.
Imagine what a good person I would be if I
Yeah.
did that. I'm
Oh.
so good for thinking about it. Yeah. So that's what they did. They thought about it. So 1961, the Tsar bomber, which is 10 times more explosive power than every single munition detonated in World War II combined, was created. And Russia has really won the arms race at this point because they have the biggest, baddest bomb that you could ever think about. So thank you, my Excite. 1967 comes around. They saw a very, very dry winter. Not a lot of snow, meaning not a lot of snow to melt and fill up Lake Karachay, which was already known to be very shallow. The summer then continued with this dry spell, and the water was evaporating. So while people in the surrounding areas knew to stay away from the lake due to its toxicity, there was a more insidious disaster actually occurring. The evaporated lake left contaminants behind and leached into the sediment, and this sediment got whipped up and whipped around in the wind and became known as clouds of death. And once again, containing high levels of S90 and C23, people were unknowingly inhaling the radioactive dust or innocently cleaning it off their windows, not thinking that they would need protection to do this because it's just
It's
dust.
freaking dust.
Yeah.
So that next photo with the red line on it, this shows how far it reached. It went across 63 villages and affected 41,000 people. The residents had no way of knowing that these winds would later be their death sentence. And this was the year that the Soviet authorities actually decided that something needed to happen. They decided to fill in Lake Karachay so that it could not harm another person. 1986, the Chernobyl disaster happens. Why is this important? This is when the intel of the Karashitim disaster was finally reported, just a cool 19 years later.
Goodness gracious.
The authorities
they're like,
were
"Oh,
letting
yeah,
the
we have
government
something
know.
too to talk about.
No,
Okay.
so the reason why they were doing it was because they were trying to be part of the cleanup crew. They were like, yeah, we have experience in cleaning
Well,
up
when we had our
radioactive
nuclear
materials.
disaster,
They're trying to get a
this is
job
what we
out of
did.
it. Trying to make
Yeah.
some money.
So, no,
Okay.
but what did they do? Nothing? Anyways, that's when that finally came to light, was that happened. Because they were like, no, we know what to do. We know what
We're
to do. It's all cool.
experienced
Like,
in
we can
this.
do this.
Well,
we can do
they
this.
were experienced in thinking about what they could have done,
Right.
which
So
is the
over
best
these
good
next
deed you
few
can
years-
do.
Exactly, is thinking about something good. So over these next few years, there was major upheaval of the people in the USSR and it started to dissolve. So this took a lot of the government's attention away from radioactive cleanups. This means that the filling in of Lake Karachay came almost to a complete halt as they were starved of money to do this process. In 1991, standing at the shoreline for 1 hour would have been enough radiation poisoning to kill you.
Oh, that is such a big problem.
So it was just becoming more and more deadly the longer that it sat there and was left untouched. During this time, there were other major disasters that needed cleaning up, from anthrax shores, which obviously I need to cover at some other time, to
Yeah.
Chernobyl. But Lake Karachay was still considered the most deadly and dangerous. It was more deadly than anthrax shores.
Whatever that is.
Yeah. Sounds
Nothing
bad.
good.
Can't be good.
2004, there was evidence of recent nuclear waste dumping into Lake Karachay.
Listen, I can't quit you.
Still.
Do you like that, baby? You like when I pour this toxic sludge on your
And you
shores?
like it?
Do you like it? Ow,
So,
you're burning me. Oh.
Yeah. So in 2008, a new cleanup was launched that was partially funded by the USA and the UK for Lake Karachay. It cost $263 million and was completed in 2015. That is the next photo there. That is them dumping the rocks into the lake.
This could easily be Halifax, by the way.
Right. They took out in the
Oh
industrial
my gosh.
areas. Yeah.
Burn on Halifax.
Hey,
I mean,
look
they
at that
have done a
photo.
lot.
and tell
Bears
me
Lake was not
right.
pretty.
This does look like
yeah.
many construction sites we've seen. Yes.
Yeah. So, it only took 48 years to complete this. They took out all the rest of the water that was in
So
there.
when
And
you
they
have a
covered it all
project
in with
deadline,
concrete.
That's why you need a
Procrastination sets
project
in and-
manager. Holy shit. Yep.
So they were able to fill it in with concrete and dirt and rocks. Some did say that they thought that the Mayak was just going for the most cost-effective way to fill it in and not necessarily the best final solution.
Duh.
So there's
Yeah,
still a
I'm
lot of like,
pretty sure that would probably
y-
be their method, considering their
At
history.
at at
yeah, of
midnight, the
course.
rocks will glow bright green, but everything's
Yeah, pretty
fine.
much. Yeah.
It's fine. Just don't touch it.
Yeah.
So you think that this would all be laying to rest the horrible time in history, right?
Sorry, no, obviously not.
Yeah.
So,
Just tell us.
the next photo is of today. So it shows Lake Karachay filled in.
Mhm.
It shows where the Kaishim disaster was, where the Mayak facility was, and then Ozarks again. Was City 40 up there. So the people that still live in City 40, which by the way is beautiful. If you look up
Ooh.
photos of it now, it is gorgeous. It's right on the water.
Hold on one
It's a
second.
closed
Really,
city.
you guys both watched a documentary. It's now clicking that I may have also watched the same documentary. Do you remember who made it? Was it like DW
For the
something?
Chernobyl
No,
one?
for
Is that what
this-
you're
No
talking
idea.
about? Oh,
I never watched a
Oh,
documentary
sorry, I
on
thought
that.
you guys said you watched.
No, we're talking about Chernobyl.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, sorry, but
Get
like
with the
this is-
program,
okay.
Megan.
I know. Well,
God.
this is all ringing a bell.
Anyways,
Get
the
your
city
disasters down.
is beautiful. Yeah, God.
Okay.
The city's really beautiful if you go there, but obviously it's not that great to live in. So the surrounding villages are still dealing with the fallout of the radioactive pollution. According to government data, this is as high as 400,000 people still dealing with ongoing issues. Not only are they dealing with shorter than average lifespans and an increase in cancer diagnosis, they are also still living closely to another contaminated lake. Not as bad as Karachay, but still very up there and still enough to obviously cause health problems. In 2009, the government finally decided that they were going to start giving back to those that had been affected by the 1957 and 1967 disasters. Each resident would get to decide to either have a new house or 1 million rubles. Which is
Can't be a lot.
$9,730 or if you count for inflation, $14,226 today.
Which you can totally buy a house
Awesome.
for. But the house would
Yeah.
have to be in like the toxic waste areas. Is that the plan?
Well.
That the house was built
You're
on
almost
top of
on
Lake
the nose
Karachay.
there. You're almost on the nose there. Corruption
Okay.
still runs strong in the USSR in 2009, in Russia in 2009, and there was a lot of money that was stolen by the authorities rather than being distributed. So those who win for the payout received barely anything of the barely anything that they were offered. And those that chose a new home, they moved them 2 kilometers away in an area that was just as contaminated as the area that they left. We did it.
Mission accomplished.
Is anyone surprised?
Some did end up getting monthly checks to help them pay for medicine, an astounding $15 per month.
That's like
Wow.
1.5 Starbucks lattes.
Uh-huh. Over time, the amount of radioactive pollution that was released from the waters of Lake Karachay was more than double the amount emitted from the Chernobyl disaster.
Holy shit.
Damn.
And that is Lake Karachay.
Girls trip.
Get your bikinis. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's filled in. We'll still have
More,
fun.
more skin to burn more quickly. Good.
You know what? I really
Yeah.
wanted a good tan, so might as well just go
Yeah.
for a radioactive one.
There is
Exactly.
apparently a lake somewhere. I mean, Russia's so massive. Say somewhere in Russia is like just somewhere on Earth, and
Mhm.
the pools are like bright blue, kind of like how they look in Alberta, like that beautiful like turquoise. And people will pose in bathing suits, like for the gram, and they're like toxic, and people go in them too. And it's like it's literally what you're
What?
describing. I'll find it.
Where?
Oh.
my
Again,
God.
somewhere in Russia, only the freaking largest landmass
God.
country. but
Okay.
I'll
Yeah,
It's
somewhere-
not still a
somewhere
clear
in
amount of
Russia.
water.
That's just like saying somewhere in the ethos. I will
Yeah.
I will find it. I mean,
So I did want us to end this on a
Positive?
a little positive note. So I did find this
Okay.
story of an Australian man known as the man with the golden arm. Have you guys heard about this guy before?
no.
No.
He donated blood every week for 60 years before retiring at the age of 81, and the Australian Red Cross Blood Services said that his astonishing 1,100 donations helped save the lives of more than 2.4 million babies.
That's
He has
incredible.
a unique blood type that has disease-fighting antibodies that are needed to create anti-D injections. These injections fight Rehr's disease. So that's the one when a pregnant woman, let's say your blood type is negative and your partner's
Oh.
blood type is positive, your body will actually try and fight the baby.
Aaron
Yeah,
got
that's
with
what my
Callum.
mom's whole job is. Like she runs
Yeah,
that
so
program.
this
Yeah.
man, his blood like helped to save the lives of millions of babies.
That's
Wow.
fantastic. But he
So-
donated every week. Like he must have some special
Yeah, so
thing
it'd be
going
probably
on
a
that way too.
small
because
amount.
Yeah, because
You're supposed to
probably a
donate
small
every
amount that they're donating.
Is it 6 or 8 weeks or something? I don't know.
Men is less, and it also
Yeah.
depends if you're giving white blood cells or whole blood, because you can
Okay.
donate partial
I haven't donated in a long time.
more
but I
frequently.
should.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's Lake Karachay, and that's a nice little thing to end on. And you know, that really sucks. And obviously, like you know, at that time they had no forethought of what this was going to do,
But they
Right.
very
what radioactive
soon
material was
start
going
to
to do to the
realize, and they
environment.
just kept
I
doing
think
And they
it.
just did
they-
nothing.
Yeah. And because they weren't held accountable to do anything.
Even still, it
So-
seems.
Yeah. Well, because they weren't held accountable, because they were like, let's keep
And
this
then
like
the
super,
only reason
super,
they brought
so
anything up
secret
at
that'll kill you if
all
you tell anybody's secret.
was so that they could get hired for a job, right?
Yeah, so that they could be
So they
like,
can make money.
we know what we're doing. It's okay. We're totally
but the
competent.
info that
over
they
here.
really
We know what
held
we're
this
doing.
well.
They didn't really
Yeah.
act on their
Handle
own
this well.
info. Well,
No.
I don't like anything about this.
Yeah.
No.
Except the Australian man who has the golden arm. Apparently, that's actually
Yeah.
pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah. So that's why I
I
said
like
it was more
him.
like lake adjacent.
Hey, it's
'Cause
water.
The lake doesn't exist anymore, but the lake obviously, when it evaporated and
It
became like
was a
this
lake.
dust storm of death, it was like not exactly great. And
wonder-
also, like, they used this lake and these rivers for
Well,
drinking water for a lot of the
yeah, like
things. It's just, oh my
groundwater is
God.
a thing.
Like, how could you not think like,
Yeah.
oh, we'll just dump this here, even though the city that we built also uses this.
Just my hometown is known for its infamous tar ponds. So let me tell you,
Oh,
everyone
There
does
you
it.
go.
But I keep thinking about
There you
this.
go.
Now it's a giant landfill, by the way. I saw Aerosmith on the former tar ponds. So things can
Oh.
change. But I wonder how
well,
it
I
is
mean,
here
even
when
look
it
at all
rains.
the stuff that was, even look at all the stuff that was dumped into the harbor, Halifax Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
And the cleanup that they had to do. They built a whole facility to clean out the Halifax Harbor because there was medical waste being
Right.
dumped into
Ew.
that.
I think it
we
was
were
like
idiots.
the mayor at one point was like saying it like the harbor's clean and jumped
Uh,
in.
yeah,
to
then he
prove
got a
it, and then
rash
got
the
really
next day.
sick or something. It's like
Yeah, he literally he was in the hospital for like this like really bad skin infection rash like
yeah,
a couple
like, well,
days later.
Thanks for testing the waters for us. We will
Literally.
see
Yeah.
here. It does
My-
does look a lot better than it used to. I will say that.
It smells a lot better.
My mom
Yeah.
says like they, you know, when she was young, they used to swim in the harbor. It was very
Yeah.
common for people to swim in the
There
harbor at
was
that time. She goes, the
beaches,
last
like, at
time I
Point
ever swam
Pleasant
there,
And stuff that
she says,
people
the last time
actually.
I ever swam there was because I saw a piece of poop going past me. She's like, that was the last
Oh.
time I ever went in. I
That's
was like,
fair.
that makes sense.
Yep, checks out.
Well, I
So-
feel slightly nauseous. I hope that everyone enjoyed listening to this episode.
Tell us about your radioactive waters that you live near or on, or what did your town do to your water sources that weren't good?
Yeah, Michigan. You want to chime in here?
They have a lot to say.
Um,
Also, there's a great movie. Chantel, you may have watched part of it, and I think it's called like Toxic Man. But there's a guy that gets toxic waste spilled on him, and then he fights crime. But it's like,
Oh, yes.
yeah,
I do know that.
but it's like really bad. Like it's not.
yeah, no, it's
not.
like
isn't
a,
that
not even
Harley
a-
Quinn's
it's like a
origin story
C-rated.
too?
Yeah, she also fell on some chemicals too. I see this happening a lot.
Was she more? I mean, it depends which lore you go for. Some of them, she just was like an Olympic gymnast and also a doctor, and then just fell in love with the Joker and decided to become crazy. So like her
She
whole
had
fact
time
that she
to
can
do
like
both.
Yeah.
yeah.
God, the standards they hold women to. I
I
don't
mean,
even.
Yep.
The standards comic books
My
put women
God.
too.
Well, I feel
yeah.
like sufficiently bummed out. So thank you
Yeah.
to everyone
Welcome
for
to
listening. Chantel, thanks
Monday.
for this like really freaking depressing yet nothing ever changes kind of story.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
You know, just
I
wanted to
know.
make
Do we
sure
have
you
any
guys knew
stories
about this,
where
like-
humanity does good? We should.
You know
add one
what?
of those to
I-
the rotation.
I mean, sometimes they eventually do.
I am
good.
trying to curate my like
That,
Reddit
that man.
home so that I get mostly positive stuff because the rabbit holes you can go down and you just end up hating everyone.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see more good. So
yeah, I thank you for
That's
ending
why I
on
sent
Golden
you
Arm
guys that.
Man.
Mhm.
So that
Yes.
is-
You guys should
gives
go
us
listen to that Smosh Reads thing that I sent you. It was like chicken soup for the soul.
I will. I
but,
have it
like
saved.
Reddit style.
I
And
used to read
yeah,
those
if you really want to
books.
feel good after this, that is a great episode. You'll probably cry at least once. So
well, I cry every day on stuff. I'm fine though.
Yeah.
Fine. I emotionally I'm fine. I'm just
Yeah, it's usually happy tears, right? Like
yeah. Like, I'm rewatching Schitt's Creek, and
Mhm.
this show, I mean, obviously, they don't really get deep till they get later in, so I'm in season 2, and they're starting to get me. I'm like, "Oh, I'm not ready."
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
God, I love
Yeah,
that
that
show.
show
We're
was so good.
It's
uh,
so good, and it's so funny, and it's so raunchy, but it's
The
just
casting is
it's such a
perfect.
good pick me up. Like, it is not
Yeah.
like, it's just such a nice show, but it's not too in your
Mhm.
face. Oh my god. Anyway,
yeah,
watch it.
it's a great show. Another show we just finished was called Shrinking, and that had me like laughing and crying and stuff
Shrinking.
too. It's on
Was it a
Apple
sh
TV. It has Jason Segel in it
Love him.
and Harrison Ford,
Love
and
him.
great. They have
Oh,
great
yes, where
chemistry
he's,
together. Yeah.
right. Yes, yes, yes,
Mhm.
As in,
yes, I
like, a
started watching
shrink,
that.
like
He's a
shrinking?
shrink. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're both shrinks.
Like I said, I saw that
So,
Matt Damon movie where everyone literally shrinks.
Was
yeah.
that Matt Damon?
Yeah. That was a weird movie.
The one where they, like, be getting the houses, but they shrink down
Mhm.
instead? Why do I not remember that
And
being Matt Damon?
Jessica
Yeah.
Williams, she's the other shrink on their team. So the three of them have a practice
I've
together.
recognized that name.
And the whole premise is around, I guess I can say this because it happens in the first episode, but his wife is killed by a drunk driver.
Oh, shit.
And that's just how it all starts, and kind of how he deals with that. He's a young daughter, and um, like kind of how he is very mentally not able to take care of himself, but he also has to take care of others, though. So he can help others, but maybe not always himself. And it gets
That's,
really
you
deep
know,
at
moral of
times.
life.
And I found myself, especially in the last season, like in tears at the end. So
Oh my
Hmm.
god.
I
Okay.
Okay,
recommend.
maybe I gotta get
Great.
back into that.
But
I'm
it's funny
sure
too. Like it's like beef for be like
Yeah. Well,
comedic.
because it's them.
Yeah. So
I just like
Definitely.
I ugly cry. Like okay, but I'll give it a shot.
yeah.
Okay, well, I love you both. We should probably not keep ranting about shows that we want to watch. I hit my mic again because that's what I'm
'Cause
famous
you're just
for.
so
And,
mad.
I just love it.
Yes.
Um,
Using her
okay,
mic.
well, it likes it. It asked for it.
Yeah.
Do you see what it was wearing? So
Joke. It's a joke.
All right. I will continue to talk to you ladies in about 2 seconds. Love you
Sounds
all.
good.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Oh, follow us on Coffee and YouTube and Instagram.
Everywhere that you can.
Yep.
And send us a message and say that you like the show because it makes us feel happy. And that's all.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you for listening today. We loved having you. If you liked the episode, share with your friends, family, or anyone who would enjoy it. Also, take a moment to review our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Leaving us a like or comment really helps. If you'd like to buy us a coffee, please visit our coffee page at www.ko-fi.com/coastfiles. Email us at coastfilespod@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram at coastfilespod, or visit our website at www.coastfiles.com. You can find the sources for today's episode on our website. See you next week with a new episode.